got in the house like a pigeon from hell. Oh, from sand in our eyes and descended like flies. Put us back on the train.
Frank the Salt Guy, hello.
Hello, Tim. How are you receiving over?
Oh, well, good. Everything's great. I like to start the show on time for once in a while, so I just launch right into it. I just play a song, cut the fluff, and get on with the stuff, as our old friend Marcus used to say.
That's what he used to say in the good old days.
Yeah, those are the good old days. I reminisce. Do you?
Yeah, I do reminisce a bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we've been going a long time. Thanks for joining in again.
It is, of course, my pleasure. I've got some fun today.
We're gonna get right into it. Let's
go.
Let's get right into it. Let's just.
Well, since you've been entertaining all sorts of wacky theories, let's get on with this one.
Oh, I'd say, yeah, we're all over the place. And let's say hi to David John Irving McDonough, something from Spain. Hello, these Psy girls in the house. Tommy Rogers is in the house. Thanks for noticing our new start time. It's the summer season, so there's a little more light.
Summertime, 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 summertime.
And in case anyone is wondering where the audio chat is from the weekend, is I'm a little slow rendering it, so it takes half the week for it to trickle out. So you'll get to it. There's 20 hours or so of great content that will be released of the audio chat. Can you imagine that? You're laughing. Yeah, you're on it too.
Well, there is a lot, but I am a tiny fraction.
Yeah, you had
there is a lot of talking. Yeah, there's a lot of talking. It's amazing.
Shortfake.com/Discord if you want to join in. And you've got a presentation. Let's go.
And of course, I welcome people interrupting at any time they, if
caller enters.
It is all about entertaining. So as I have made no secret of, I think the Bible is the most accurate depiction of our life.
Okay.
And I've come to the view that the biblical story provides, a pretty good fit to the world of fakology.
Yeah.
So I call it the grand unifying theory of fakology.
Okay, that's good.
But remember, it's just a model.
Yeah, it's a model. I'm not a big Bible believer, as you know, so I'm okay with listening. I'm just listening.
Yeah, and I appreciate your forbearance, Tim.
You're welcome.
So, let's go.
Let's go.
What is the little season? So the little season, as far as I can tell, is a pretty new interpretation of the Bible, which essentially says that the second coming of Christ has already occurred right back, not long, so within 40 years of his crucifixion, and that we've had 1,000 years of Christ, that Armageddon took place back then. The world was destroyed. And Satan was then imprisoned for 1,000 years. And during that time, the world was, in the hands of Christ without deception.
Yeah.
And that after the 1,000 years passed, Satan was loosed out of his prison to go and deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog.
Okay.
So this essentially, this idea
Gog
is
and Magog? Sorry, you lost me there.
Well, Gog and Magog. Well, so it's Russia. It's us. We're Gog and Magog, really. And in fact, it turns out in the city of London, actually holds an annual celebration where they have effigies of Gog and Magog strolling around. The giants Gog and Magog. So that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So Gog and Magog is essentially, the people have identified at various places, but essentially it's the northern part of the world, the part around the North Pole.
Okay.
So the timeline, just roughly, the Messiah was crucified in AD 30. Over the next 40 years, the Christian takes hold in the Roman Empire. And during that time, Christians are persecuted. There's plagues, there's drought, eruptions. Nero declares himself God, implements the mark of the beast. Then the Roman armies surround Jerusalem. And at that time, Josephus makes a note of seeing heavenly armies in the sky in chariots and breastplates. And that's considered to be when Christ returned. The temple is destroyed as the Messiah said it would be. Not one stone is rested upon another. And in this idea, Rome is destroyed in AD 76, but now called AD 476. And possibly the whole world is destroyed. The giant continent Pangaea is broken apart into the bits that we see today. And I think you've seen, ancient, billions of years ago, all the continents were in one place, and they're now drifting together.
Yeah.
So in this idea, that happened essentially 1,300 years ago. And the evidence for all that is Rome baths are buried 30 feet below ground level. And, I don't know if you've seen, there's a lot of, if you like, Renaissance paintings with people drifting around in ruined temples and so on.
Okay.
So in about what we call AD 76, the 1,000-year reign occurred, and the saints who took part in the resurrection, and the people that remained had the 1,000-year Christian reign, which we now call the Dark Ages. Theodosian law was established. In the Theodosian law, usury is not okay, witches are not okay. There's a whole bunch of stuff that there is. You can still get copies of the Theodosian law. Amazing churches were built, amazing cities, beautiful buildings all over the world. And by the way, people still cannot replicate the churches that were built in what we call the Dark Ages, nor is it fully understood how they're still standing.
Okay.
The world was ruled by a rod of iron. Not everyone was happy, and and there were, much of that still comes through. There were, it wasn't all joy and roses. The world was ruled with a rod of iron, as it was said to have, would occur. And then in what we call the 16th century, the reign of the millennial reign was over, and Christ and his followers removed themselves to the camp of saints. And the camp of saints was cloaked. And there's a movie called Brigadoon, which shows a Scottish city that comes in and out.
Okay.
Every now and then.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie. Brigadoon.
Oh, it's really just the concept. The movie's, no great chop.
Okay.
And then Satan is released from his prison, basically a large swathe of the population disappeared to the camp of the saints. And this is actually discussed in a book called The Smoky God. I haven't written it in here. Where a Swedish fisherman and his son end up at the North Pole meeting giant people and living with them for several years. So I don't know if you've heard of that book called The Smoky God.
No.
pretty famous book describing their time with these people that they didn't know were those people. Satan is released, and the rest of the dead are brought back to life. That's us. We are the people that didn't take part in the first resurrection because we didn't believe the story. We didn't accept Christ at that time, or we hadn't had the opportunity to do that. So we are, essentially the idea is that those of us that are alive now are being given a second chance to choose between the light yoke of the Heavenly Father or the temptations of Satan. At about that same time, the great cities that had been built all underwent a thing called the mud flood, and we have a concept where you see the top of the window arches suddenly appearing at ground level, and there's a whole history of that through Chicago, many cities in America, Europe, even here in Melbourne, there's plenty of it, etc. And when that started, the Inquisition came, the Voyagers' discovery, all trying to find out what the new world was like after being split apart. The printing press came in, the KJV Bible, which effectively buried the idea. So the Bible that preceded the KJV Bible in English was the Geneva Bible, and that essentially, through footnotes, said that the second coming of Christ and the millennial reign had been established and was now over. So, and that Bible, written before the King James Bible,
Okay,
effectively said that the millennial reign had occurred. The KJV Bible was basically put together by King James I, largely because he didn't like the footnotes that were in the Geneva Bible, and the writers of the Geneva Bible were basically burnt at the stake. So that was a pretty interesting time. We had the Reformation, where Henry VIII basically destroyed all of the 500 at least of the monasteries of England, and destroyed their books. There was a great book burning and disappearance of books. Many of them are still in the Vatican, and there is a list of the books you can get from the Vatican telling you that, this book's here, but you can't get to it, blah, blah, blah. We had the Renaissance, which effectively means, the freeing of people that have been stomped down by the rod of iron of Christ's law, and the Theodosian law. We got Copernican cosmology. We got germ theory. They had vaccinations brought in the late 1700s. The Sesticay and the Sesticay Trusts, the maritime law, American Revolution, French Revolution, the settlement of Australia, even Canada to some extent. Canada had been settled early in that.
okay.
We had Darwin, modern education system, the Industrial Revolution, the Illuminati. It all appeared at that time. What we call 1776, Freemasonry. The Jesuits were established, for the Counter-Reformation. I've got Germany was created, but Germany was put together. Italy was created. These countries didn't exist until the mid-1800s. The Roman Catholic Church re-established its power at the Vatican. We've got the allopathic medical system. Astonishing technical progress. I mean, in my lifetime, the fax machine has come and gone. And so is the VHS recorder. Yes. Just things are happening at such a prolific rate. And of course, Santa and elves are in the North Pole. Christmas is really Saturnalia, and as far as I'm concerned, we are living right now in Rome, fully re-established by the Canaanites.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the Canaanites? They are the descendants of Canaan, and Canaan was the son of Ham, who was cursed. Why was he cursed? In my view, it's because Ham uncovered the nakedness of Noah, which means that Ham had copulated with his mother, Naamah, and their offspring, Canaan, was the reason we end up with giants appearing again after the flood. So what does the Bible predict next? It predicts next that, so just going back to all of those things, just bear with me while I...
Yeah, it's good that you created this presentation. Hope everyone's enjoying it.
So if we go back to all of those things,
Yeah.
the just bear with me while I just go back one step.
Okay. Take your time.
Yep, sure. So if we just go back to all of these things that we're talking about here, every one of those things that I've typed out here has been a subject of fakeology discussion. Every single one of them. The KJV Bible. Was the Reformation real? Who was helped by it? What was the Renaissance? Copernican cosmology, germ theory, vaccination. All of those things, really, we just have essentially said, these are all nonsense.
Yes.
Then we look at things like the American Revolution, the French Revolution, Australia and New Zealand and their constitutions. And we've talked about how none of the legal documents exist. Canada doesn't exist, for example.
Yes.
It's all a mirage, every single one of them. Modern education system, which just fills people's heads with nonsense. And how did the Industrial Revolution come about? Well, we don't know. We just suddenly, all of a sudden, became very mechanical. Can you just bear with?
Yeah. Can you get the door?
I've got something happening in the background.
Yeah, Frank has to get the door. Well, Frank's getting the door. Hopefully everyone's enjoying this presentation here. Tommy Rogers says the most extensive excavations of ancient Rome began in 1938 on the orders of Mussolini and lasted until 1942. For 5 years, a significant part of the city was dug out. What else we got here?
And thank you for that, Tommy Rogers. That's exactly right. I've been to Rome and watching it. Even when I was there in 2004, there were massive excavations going on. And one of the interesting things is that the giant ark, I've forgotten the name of it. There's a giant arch of victory there. And it has the heads on it of all of the Roman emperors that was said to be spread out over 300 or 400 years, all on the same arch. So that clearly indicates that those men were contemporaries, because Rome had different parts of it. And that's really, again, how I think time has been extended. Effectively, another 400 years was added in to the into the Roman story. And that arch provides a contraindication of that. So history has been really faked. And really, again, the guy that established the timeline was a guy called Scaligeri. And he did that at about this time, when we're talking about 1600s, when all of the history came about. And then a lot of it we get from the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, which was by Gibbons again in 1700. And so really the whole objective at this time was to hide the idea that was presented in the Geneva Bible, that the millennial kingdom had been and gone. And really, as far as I'm concerned, all of the fakery that we see today is simply the outplaying of the time of deception of Satan's release.
Yeah, you've been. How long have you had these views?
Yeah, I guess it really probably 2 or 3 years. I guess. Oh, mate, no, sorry, it must be longer. It must be longer.
Well, when did you ever go to church?
As a child, I went to church. My mother was a church elder in the Lutheran church.
Mm-hmm.
I've been baptized as a Lutheran, and my so I was married in church, baptized.
Yeah. When did you read the Bible?
I only probably started about say 10 years ago.
And when did you decide it was the truth?
Really, when I got to the idea that the realization that the earth, the realization that as an engineer, I assumed the world was flat. And then when I realized that the vacuum of space was impossible, the story was impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you imagine, let's say you're in a big room, and if you imagine in the center of that big room is a tiny dot that you can't see, and that whole room is a perfect vacuum, how can that dot hang on to its atmosphere?
Yeah.
It's physically impossible. So that story is impossible. And then, of course, I started learning to fly around that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when I mentioned something about how come the horizon doesn't drop as you get higher in the air, when my flying instructor essentially said, all you engineers are the same. You just can't accept reality, can you? You've always got some stupid theory or other. And that was because I was thinking about the spinning ball world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But people are not taught to fly like that. People are taught to fly on the basis that the world is flat and motionless. Otherwise, you couldn't get anywhere, because if I jump on a plane and fly from Melbourne to Sydney, well, if I was thinking the world was spinning, then Sydney's moved to where Hawaii was while I'm up in the air.
Yeah. But so when did the Bible become your truth, though?
Well, it's through thinking about when I got pointed out to me that this idea that the second coming had occurred, that the world had been destroyed and we were living in the time of deception, after being steeped in fakeology for several years, that was just a kind of a click.
Interesting. Well,
and more of it. I mean, obviously, the shutdown, on the basis of that spurious nonsense going on during the COVIDian cult.
Yes.
And seeing that obviously on the important issues, there is no countries. There's just one overarching system of control, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they try.
Well, they've done it. There's on certain issues, there is no. Everyone had the jab somehow or other. Every single place in the world.
Yes.
And there is a group of people that seem to be in charge everywhere you go, and presumably in Iran now. The people there are just like you and me trying to work out what's going on. But nonetheless, there's a group of people running the show who I call the Canaanites in every country, in every place. They're working on their agenda. And we're not aware of it. And the reason we're not aware of it is because we're born into this world really to try and make a decision. That the guys that run the world are the people that filled the power vacuum after Christ and his people left the world and went to the camp of saints.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're here all going, oh, what's going on? I just remember as a child thinking, what is going on? Every time I said something, it seemed to offend somebody. You can never work out why.
Interesting.
What was your experience?
In what? Religion?
As a child, how did you think of the world as you were growing up?
Didn't really think about the shape of the earth or any of those things, actually.
No, I didn't either as a child. I just accepted
Yeah.
the spinning ball.
Well, you just accept what you're told.
But did you ever say and do things that got you into trouble that you never understood?
Well, I was a contrarian from the beginning, so I just argued against authority, just asking why I had to do something a certain way. So yeah, for sure. So yeah, I've always been a contrarian, if that's what you're asking.
And I call that being covered in clay. You know, I just think we, you know, from childhood we're fine, and then we just get beaten up by, you know, this just, oh, don't do this, do this, treat this person this way, and, you know, don't say that, yada yada yada.
Yes, that's true.
You know, as a mining engineer, for me, to professionally say, oh, I think we live in the world is flat, even though every mining engineer assumes the world is flat when they make their models and so on and do their surveying. For example, you know, to create a contour map of a place that you're going to mine, it's done by a plane flying over and taking photos at different spacings, and a system called stereophotogrammetry is used. That assumes absolutely that the world is flat to achieve those topographical contours and so on, and you know what we call a digital terrain model.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, and we assume that the world is motionless for things like, you know, a crane on top of a building with a long cable hanging down with a weight on it, or a plumb bob. We assume that plumb bob will be vertical. Now, of course, if the world is spinning, especially on a very long crane thing, it should be out of whack at the bottom by nearly a meter from the rotation of the Earth. But of course, that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the net effect of all this is, and then I started applying this for myself in terms of, you know, writing letters to the Prime Minister about getting a jab. I think, as we've talked about several times,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, fines that you receive for speeding and so on. I don't have any of those things, and I've written those letters where essentially, if you operate on the basis that the actual law is still governed by the Bible, you're fine. That's the crazy thing, because a lot of this is deception.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, the German government is saying that men of 45 have to stay in the country and can be called up for military service. On what basis are they doing that?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm betting. Oh, sorry, I'm guessing. I shouldn't say I'm betting. I'm guessing that everybody can get out of the draft anywhere in the world by understanding that they have been given salvation from Jesus Christ. I think that is the legal situation, or the lawful situation. Simply on my experience with, as I said, with the getting a letter from the Prime Minister that I don't have to have a jab, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there is, you know, it's a practical model, and from it, it's allowing me to then, you know, I don't think there's a topic here that I've got on this presentation. If you show it up again, that I don't think we haven't discussed as being phony.
Very good. Very good. Well, if anyone wants to call in and dispute.
So
Frank.
now I've got.
Yes.
I've got what's the next bit? So what's the biblical prediction now?
Oh, okay. You got more slides?
I've got a couple more slides.
Okay. We lost your display, so can you put it back on?
Sure.
Squirrel often says, combine a sphere and a flat plane and you get a box. Okay.
Or a yellow submarine, as I prefer to call it.
Okay, here we go. So we lost some of your, I guess your screen went out, so it's back.
Okay, so The biblical prediction is that when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, which we've talked about, and shall go out to deceive the nations, which are the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, and gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. And they went up on the breadth of the earth. Now, the breadth of the earth are the flat plains, basically in Canada, Greenland, Siberia, and compassed the camps of the saints about and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. That's so. In this view that I'm putting forward, we're not waiting for the second coming of Jesus Christ. He's already here. He's at the camp of the saints. What we're now waiting for is this battle of Gog and Magog. So the fakology style interpretation is that under various pretexts, the military of the entire world surrounds the North Pole. And we're seeing that already. Trump is talking about buying Greenland.
Yeah, that's died off quite a bit.
Yeah, but it's still going ahead. And apparently NATO forces are mobilizing and onto Greenland as we speak.
They are?
That's apparently.
I thought that was a dead issue, but you're saying it's happening.
I'm saying that more and more troop movements are taking place, and the militarization of Greenland is incurring at an increasing pace.
Okay.
Then Canada, Alaska, Siberia, all of those, all of this stuff about war, and as I said, we talked before about Germans, and I think the USA is also talking about conscription again. And Australia is talking about conscription again. Australia is talking about, as now just announced yesterday or the day before, that they are going to rapidly increase military spending from 1% of GDP to 2 point something or other percent of GDP.
Yeah, well, that was a requirement for Trump with NATO. Okay, well, yeah, you're right. It said that started January 2026 this year. And Denmark has been moving people in. Okay. France and Germany are sending troops. Swedish. Okay.
The Norwegians, of course, are a big part of this. They've got the Svalbard Islands and military bases up along the north there. They're identified as being part of their thing about the Russian threat because there's a tiny little border on the.
So do they actually think they're going to be fighting Americans? Is that the idea?
Well, so what I think is going to happen is, so at the moment, under various pretexts, the armed forces are being mobilized there, right?
Okay.
The next step I think is going to occur, which people talk about, Project Blue Beam and so on. And, we've got all this stuff about API. What is it called? IAPs? What are UFOs called now?
Oh, UAPs, unidentified
aerial phenomenon.
Right.
And the whole talking about disclosure, friendly aliens are going to be revealed that warn of an interstellar threat. And these friendly aliens are here to help. Now, essentially, my view of those friendly aliens, the biblical interpretation, is that those friendly aliens are effectively the fallen angels. Then an alien invasion is going to be identified, and they're already talking about, there's such and such a comet arriving, it's comet blah, blah, blah. And it's not going to strike the world this time.
Yeah. Hey, we got a caller in, or hold on. Caller in, where are you calling from? What's your name?
I'm John the Beggar, and I'm calling from the South Shore of the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Pretty good.
Hello, John, how are you? What do you think so far?
Doctor today, and he said he gave me some new medicine, and I hope I'm going to be fine. But right now, I am opposed to involuntary servitude.
Yeah.
Draft, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You haven't committed a crime, and you're being put into involuntary servitude, much like you are when jury duty. And the only time the government wants you is for jury duty, war, and for paying taxes.
Yeah.
So it's not a government that cares about the people at all.
Absolutely.
It has no care or concern for us at all. And I am totally opposed to involuntary servitude in a draft. I'm even opposed to compulsory public education for children. It should be offered, but that's up to the parents. And people say, well, the kids will have nothing to do and they'll get into trouble. Well, if they get into trouble, the courts can order them to go to school because of their troublesome.
Well, it's interesting that apparently Bill Gates' children, Elon Musk's children, the guy Jeff Bezos' children, none of them go to school. They're all
poor people. Yeah, they always. I agree with that.
It's for poor people. It was originally made to get you to march for war and other things.
Well,
and
yeah, as you know, the Prussians were the first to really bring it in.
It has no business being required you to do anything like that. And I saw something even interesting on a guy, Professor Hamamoto. So I don't agree with everything he says, but he was talking about Charlie Sheen and David Duchovny being rolled out as potential political candidates. And the thing was with David Duchovny because he was in the X-Files.
Yeah.
All these things. And he went into Charlie Sheen and the Estevez family, which is what they are. They changed their name. And he said that is royalty from northern Spain and northern Portugal. And if you look at the Estevezes, they'll say they're Hispanic, but they look more Celtic because actually the northern Spaniards and northern Portuguese are Celts. And
Basques, of course.
Yeah. Well, the Basques aren't Celts, but they were always allies and friends of the Celts. And this is also a place where people have more negative blood than in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. But he was saying how the Charlie Sheen and Martin Sheen, these were, and he took the name Sheen because of Bishop Sheen, and that he's really a very wealthy Spanish family, and they may come on and try to have them as representatives of the Hispanic movement, which is nonsense because it's like Fidel Castro. He was a white guy, not only Spanish, he was Italian, and he's part Jewish too. And then you look at the rapper Pitbull. If that guy isn't a white Spaniard, I don't know what the hell he is. He sure isn't a Latino man by any stretch of the imagination. And these are, like he had said, these are royal families, and these people are trying to get themselves put into position. And Charlie Sheen made a book called The Book of Charlie Sheen, and it's got leather on the outside of it, and he said it almost looks like a Bible.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, are they going to bring these guys out as some sort of a political movement? Because David Duchovny was given a show and Charlie Sheen showed up on it. And I just would not doubt that.
No, me, John.
No. Pardon?
I wouldn't doubt it either. Oh, sorry. Let's put it another way. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't either. They're going to bring out.
But the great part about what's happening here with you identifying is effectively you're onto them, aren't you?
Yes, and other people are too. And he's not always, but this Professor Hamamoto has gone into other things, showing people getting in charge of universities who go back to ancient times in Babylon and other places. They're royal families, and he talks about some stuff like he talks about that. And and
the presidents of the USA all being descendants of King John.
Yeah, being descendants of King John, you get one version. And the last guy who really challenged, who was not a descendant of King John, was Michael Dukakis. And I remember that royal reporter, and got all this top bidding on the television. And she said they'll never let him be. He's not even a Greek royal, let alone a British royal. He was just a commoner.
Yeah.
I have more royal blood than he does. And, it's just, and like I said, that area of northern Spain, the Basque regions, Portugal, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, a lot of negative blood there. And it's kind of like they've always kind of wanted to keep us down, as if they were fearful we would pop up. And
well, again, as I said, the reason that there is the thing I like about this little Caesar model is that it does explain how some people know about it all and know how the rules work, and they've kept that in their family lines, and they pass it on child to son. It's because they're the originators are the guys that were left behind when Christ and the followers left the scene.
Well, I've heard your theory before, and from other people too, about the little seed.
Of course, yeah. I'm not. The only thing I'm bringing here is, I guess, as a way of saying how that theory explains a lot of what we do in fakeology.
Definitely. Have you heard about that guy Gary Wayne and all his Genesis 6
Yes.
theory? Yeah. Sometimes they have some interesting things, but it really is peculiar, the negative bloodline. And people misquote it. They claim it's 15% of the world. No, it's 15% of Europeans. And when you go to other continents, it goes down and down and down.
Yeah.
And down. But they're ruling class. Either they're chieftains or people who are their religious leaders or medicine men. They tend to have negative blood, and that tends to run in certain elite families, also in those parts of the world. And they have a legend that their ancestors came down from the heavens. And some will say they were lion men and things like you had the lion men of Moab in the Bible when King David had his alliance with them, and he talks about these people having a lion head, and people say, oh, that was just a mask, but you can't wear a mask like that in that climate. You'd suffocate.
No, I don't disagree with you.
And some of the warriors, though, only had teeth like a lion, but looked like human beings.
Well, again, the any records of any physical records of these style of creatures are either called dinosaurs or simply just taken away by the Smithsonian, and you never see them again.
There are some in Roman and in Constantinople writings. There are some things of the soldiers, dog soldiers. Yeah, and they talk about these people, and they even talk about some of them, and then other ones looking more human but having dog-like teeth.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, I think he was a botanist. He went, a famous Russian one. He went into Siberia in 1837, and he has all his writings. He talks very, about real things we can see today, and he talks about his encounter with dog people. So, I mean, this is very unusual of this, but if you go to other books like that are quoted in the Bible, but aren't in it, like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jasher.
One of the things that really I talk about the KJV being one of the deceptions. If I identify that as being one of the deceptive things, the Ethiopian Bible has all 88 books, and it still exists.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting to read those books, and then you look at what you would call mythology of various cultures, and some of that mythology lines up very well.
Yeah.
With that. In fact, even from the book of Job, where God sits in charge of the council of the gods, small g, angels underneath
the 70, yeah.
Yeah, it lines up with various polytheist mythologies.
Exactly.
It does, and and this is where
those books, Jubilee talks about how there were 70 kingdoms set up, and each of them go their own way, and God looked after the one where the Heavenly Father looked after the one that had the Israelites.
Yep. But it lines up with this, and it seems to be always just pushed to one side, and but it's interesting to look at these other things like that, and to look at lines and people, and this does really get me hot under the collar, this idea of a draft, and I've been assured by many young people that they're not going to put up with it. So I think it'll be interesting ultimately.
Well, again, as I would say, if anyone, young people listening, you don't overcome the draft by fighting it. You overcome it by conditional acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Strongly recommend that you use the lawful framework that exists. Yeah. Anyway, and
That's
leads,
your specialty, Frank.
well, I just think it's really where it's all, it's effective. And, you're being, in that case, as Christ recommends, you're being wise as a serpent and peaceful as a dove.
Or gentle as a lamb, doesn't it say that? I thought it was gentle as a lamb.
You may be right.
But it's the same thing. And right now, you can say the doctrine I know with the Catholic Church of the just war.
Whoa!
What justification is this war? And if there's no moral justification or no real threat to the people of Australia or Canada or America, they should just say, I can't fight in it because it's an immoral war. It's a war of aggression.
Yeah. And we've talked, and this is where, as I said, in my view, what happened at 9/11. Let's bring in 9/11, a good topic.
Yeah.
Clearly, there was no connection between even the given story and what happened next in terms of people going out and fighting.
Yeah, very tenuous.
In my opinion, what was happening there was Satan was showing God how pathetic people are that they would give up their commandments, the 10 commandments, and go and kill people without any evidence, without any justification. There'd been no trial. There was no connection between what was happening in Iraq at all. But somehow, you'll notice that the politicians, none of their children went to do this. It was only,
Definitely.
it was Protestants. The only people dying in these wars, as far as I can work out, are Protestants. God-fearing
groups that go in.
In Russia, the 30 million people that died, if that's true, were Protestants.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, were Orthodox Russians.
Orthodox
Christians, yeah.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
they were essentially people that followed this 88-book canon and were aware of all the signs. So what's next? Fakology style interpretation. We're going to have friendly aliens revealed. They're all here to help us.
David Duchovny will bring that out.
David Duchovny. The Asian invasion will be identified. If the heavenly Jerusalem descends, it'll be Independence Day style stuff. Ronald Reagan's numerous speeches about the world united being by a common threat will come true. A giant spaceship will be observed, and the armies of the world and the friendly aliens will attack it. That's the camp of the saints. That's my fakology style interpretation. I think we're starting to see those things. I don't think I'm making any great claims here. These things are now openly talked about, as you said. With David Duchovny and the congressional hearings on aerial, what do you call it? I'm going to keep calling them UFOs because I'm just too old to change. Those phenomenon.
Their government. They're from the U.S. government. And
Yeah.
I'm sure your government in Australia has them. The Canadians probably have some too.
Mhm.
Your technology.
Yeah. So that is, I guess, the end of my fun presentation on combining the joy of fakology with the fun of reading the Bible. It's just a model. That's all I can say. It's just a model.
Interesting. Are you a Bible believer, John the Beggar?
Yes, I am.
What do you think of Frank's model?
I have questions about it. It's accepted in the Roman Catholic Church somewhat by some people, but it's another way of looking at it. Some Orthodox even look at it that way. But I do believe in the truth of the Bible.
Okay. And is it a predictive model? Can you predict the future with it like Frank says he can?
Well, that may be iffy. That's a little iffy on that. But
Yeah.
I would not doubt that they're going to come with this, and they've had Mr. Duchovny come out and Mr. Sheen, and they're going to bring a bunch of characters out for us, new ones, younger ones, that certain generations will identify with.
Mm-hmm.
But they are going to be the stars that they built up, aren't they? They're going to be people that have,
Oh, yeah.
you know, like Trump. They'll have been long established in the minds of people as being authoritative in some strange way, like Duchovny with X-Files and so on.
Yeah, that'll be the thing, and Sheen with his antics and things.
Yeah, that's the stamp of authority.
They may bring out his brother Emilio, and his father Martin played on that The West Wing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
He played the president.
Yeah,
What
he
did
could be
happen
the
to
next
Martin
president.
Sheen?
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's still
I
alive,
think
Martin
he's still
Sheen?
alive. Yeah, he's still alive.
Well, he must be old.
He is an old guy from Dayton, Ohio. But his family goes back to the Spanish and Portuguese nobility.
And of course, people are weakened in their ability to discern things because they're struggling with economic stuff and oil stuff and, you know, everything, jabs, cancer, just a miasma of confusion and nonsense.
Well, the cancers are wild. I know that. And I try to suggest to some people about an incident that I knew of. A chiropractor told me and introduced me to his client once, because I was one of his clients too. And this guy had been diagnosed by his doctor that you've got cancer of the brain, you're going to die in 6 months. And he came to the chiropractor and said, I don't know, I'm going to come back anymore for adjustments because, you know, I'm going to die anyways.
Yeah.
And the chiropractor said, let's take another x-ray. And the guy said, oh, my insurance won't cover it. And he said, on the house. And he took the x-ray and he said, that almost looks like a ball of worms inside of you. And he told him to cross the border,
wow,
into Canada,
yeah,
and get a drug called Combatrin. And the guy went over every day and did that for 6 months.
Yeah.
And he went back to his other doctor, and the doctor said it was gone.
Wow.
So, and if you look at cancer and you look at parasites, they act in some ways similar. And there is now a lot of people doing things with antiparasiticals.
Mm-hmm.
Towards cancer. And if anyone is out there, and if you're not having any luck, what would it hurt you to take some antiparasiticals? And you can even go get Combatrin. You don't even have to go to Canada. It's over the counter now in the States.
Yeah.
At CVS. So, you know, it's there, and I'm sure there's similar things. And you can always go the natural route of black walnut shells.
Oh, yeah.
Which I know the American Indians and then there's garlic. Eat tons of garlic too. Whatever hurts you.
Hold time 5 seconds.
Okay. Thank you, John the Beggar. We got to take our next caller, and then we got to take off.
Okay. Good night, guys. Thanks for letting me call. Bye.
Thank you, John the Beggar.
Thanks for listening, John.
All right, caller in, or where are you calling from? What's your name?
Hi, Ab. It's Anna. Hi, Frank. How are you?
I'm well, Anna, and you?
Anna from PA. Good. What do you?
Yeah, from Pennsylvania.
Hi, Anna. Anna's a regular on the Discord, shortfake.com/Discord. Always like hearing from Anna.
For this topic. Thank you, Frank, for this topic. It's so interesting. At least I think so. But did you get to the part where? Do you still think that we're from? We're the remaining dead? Like
yes, that's. I think we are the reason that we come into the world confused and dazed is because we because we're the last. I think we're running out of the reason that the number of births is falling. I think is because we're approaching the number of people that need to live again.
So did we live before?
Yes, I think so.
Model? Did we all live before, and that this is our second chance, or maybe
that's what
third,
I think.
I don't know, or something like that.
Yeah,
but
I think
all
so.
of us on Earth have been here before.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I should say, take that back. That's what I think the Bible is saying.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it could explain a lot of things, like where people have past live memories and their stories like that, or little children will talk about when they lived before, and strange things that could explain part of that.
I mean, it's really it. You know, I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's just how I read the Bible is that way. Yes.
Yeah, I do think something happened, but I'm shaky on if the millennial kingdom was a physical kingdom on Earth, and like you were saying about the North Pole up there. I think there's something to the North Pole because everything points, to the North Pole, like that we have navigation to that. There's something special about that. I think that's where all the waters come from, like, from up there, and then circulate under the earth and things.
Yeah, I think it's slightly the other way. The water comes out at the South Pole and gets sucked back in at the North Pole.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, because doesn't the Smoky God say something like that too?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like they go into like a
whirlpool,
like a hole. Yeah, whirlpool. Yeah. Yeah. But it's like a recycling system, isn't it? The waters, and then they go under the land.
Yeah.
It makes
round
complete
and round,
sense,
up and down,
doesn't it? Yeah, like it makes complete sense that it would be made that way, the earth. But Squirrelwaffen wrote that the Celts may be descendants of the people from Arcadia, and Arcadia is that's part of like Quebec area too. The Arcadians, they went there. But they have a Catholic heritage, and I know that there's a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment here. But
the Catholic Church was the church, really a different thing up until the 1500s. It's really, in my opinion, what happened to the Catholic Church to turn it into what it is today started taking place, when after Satan was released.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was infiltrated.
Yeah. I mean, the guy the Pope sits in an audience chamber that looks like a snake.
Yeah, it does look strange. I just wonder if they were like fooled. They didn't know when they were looking at the drawings or something. I mean, it's obvious when you look at the pictures and you see what's inside.
But even now, he's promoting every other faith but the Christian faith, isn't he?
I haven't been listening to him that much. He's in Africa now. I've seen some of that, but he's an American. I don't know if he's. I definitely think that there's infiltration, especially for the Vatican. It's such high profile, and I definitely think it would draw evil people, and the wrong people there. So I'm not saying there's not massive corruption. I'm sure there is. But yeah, I agree with you about something happening. I believe that there's some kinds of resets, and that we're in the season of deception, because it's like every part of our lives is filled with lies that we have to try to figure out if we are lucky enough, before we die. But isn't it a shame though, like for all of us fakeologists? I know we believe in different things, but wouldn't it be amazing if we never came to this, and then we just lived here and then died and under all this deception? It's so unfair, isn't it? Like to live in that to not know.
Well, it's really, it is what it is, as they say. I mean, I guess I've personally found it much more life much more enjoyable, much easier to navigate using these models. In terms of my health, and my ability to deal with other people has hugely improved.
Yeah, to deal with others and to preserve your energy, like where not to put it,
Yeah.
where not to waste it.
You know, just the fact that my children are talking to me these days, even though, as far as they're concerned, my ideas are more wacky than ever.
Oh, is that right?
And yet my relationship with them is way better than it ever has been.
Yeah.
It's quite astonishing to me. But the things that were upsetting them about me before have probably become even more exaggerated.
Well, what healed it? You've accepted the fact that they haven't like woken up, or they.
Well, no, there's that, but I also think it's prayer. It just for some reason I think a lot of poor interaction between people is because demons niggle at people's heads, and put thoughts in people's heads, paranoid thoughts, angry thoughts. And that I think prayer, because when I meet with people, I pray that for protection about the conversation, about the interaction. And, I can only report to you that as a result of that, well, I don't know as a result of that, but in coincidence with that, my relationships with even on this site here, where I used to get, much more fractious, whereas now, and, Tim will call me salty talk, but now,
Yeah.
I would say in the main, most people, while they would wildly disagree with what I'm saying, people are tolerant of what I'm saying and give me a hearing.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So even from that point of view, it's been an amazing turnaround from my point of view.
Yeah, it's been a huge relief to me to see through all this stuff. But you're right. I have compassion for people because I was those people that believed all those things. So it's just a matter of time. Are they going to wake up, or will they run out of time? That's what I feel like it is. Like it's just a matter of time. Like some people early, some later, and some don't get a chance to.
Jesus says, what is it? The wide is the road to destruction. I mean, our job, I guess I've been told in the Bible that my job is simply to provide the message. I'm not here to convince anyone.
I've never been able to truth bomb anyone. Like when I tell them stuff about
in the end, it is a model in a book. I think the Bible that I read is just a history book. It just seems to tell me exactly why Rome is covered in 30 feet of mud.
Yeah,
I think it's there.
True too.
Why they've just uncovered a port 10 miles inland in Turkey, a Roman port just completely there. But why it is that after millions of years of suddenly the erosion around the coastline of Australia is accelerating at some huge rate. In the last 10 years, the vertical cliffs on the southern coast of Australia have moved 200 million years worth of erosion, according to the theory. If Australia is a billion years old, well, how come it must have been huge? The rate of erosion that's occurring now.
Buildings, you think like if people are asking for proof about the theory, you think that the buildings are the remaining proof?
I mean, it's not proof; it's supporting evidence. That's all. This is simply an explanation of why we can go to parts of Portland, to parts of Chicago, to parts of Melbourne, and see the top window arches of buildings peeking up from ground level. And you go down there and they're 2 or 3 stories down. Well, we have a tunnel under Melbourne that no one can explain. While we have, underneath Manchester, underneath London, kilometres and kilometres and kilometres of tunnels. What's it all about? Yeah. What happened to the world fairs? What happened to the The Crystal Palace. Why did that get burnt down? How could a structure made out of cast iron and glass combust so hot that it melted the whole thing? None of it makes sense.
All right.
I agree with you. I'll let you go, but I do agree with you. I think the buildings are strong supporting evidence that we can see right now, besides photographs that could be doctored. But buildings, they're there for you to see for yourself with discerning eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you,
guys.
Anna.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for calling in.
calling. Anna calls us all the time on the Discord from Philly, Pennsylvania. Always good to hear from her. And Frank, I think we're at the end of the show.
Look, and I appreciate your tolerance and forbearance, Tim.
You're welcome. It's not my ballywick, but I don't mind hearing from good old Frank. You're a good contributor to the Fakeologist show and the Discord. And you survived the test of time, unlike many other people. They come and they go. They come and they go. And I get just as many people that like me for having you on as don't like me, et cetera, et cetera. So that's fine. That means it's working, and there's a good balance. Thank you. Thank you, Squirrel Waffen. Well, he likes the show today. I appreciate you. He's here all the time on the Faco too. We appreciate your comments as well. I think he's called into the Discord as well.
Very good.
And thanks to Tony S from the East Shore, I think, of Santa Monica Freeway or Expressway, or Santa Monica Bay rather. He sent in 1911. What a generous donation. Thank you, Tony. Tony S. Anthony. Thank you so much. That was super kind. And his name is at the bottom there, Tony S. 1911. Thank you so much. You'll get your names up in light if you make a donation. Tomorrow is Tuesday. Tim Osmond should show up, hopefully. He gets lots of listens, that's for sure. He's a big audience. And thank you, Tommy Rogers. And tomorrow, I think I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it, but I think I'm going to go on Germ Show tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Oh, wow.
He wants me to do a presentation on why I think the moon Artemis mission is fake. I don't really have much prepared, but I just really wanted to talk anyway because he has a pretty good audience. But I haven't confirmed it yet because I was waiting to see if
there's a lot of 33s and all that.
Oh, yeah. It's one of their more pathetic.
It's the most 33 driven operation for some time.
33s everywhere, huh?
33s everywhere. If you have a look at RFT-KOH or whatever his name is, formerly Hans Wormhat, his latest thing.
Right. Yes.
He does a great job in it.
Yeah, he is very good. Yeah, I wish he would have an easier name to remember, but you're right about that.
Me too. I liked Hans Wormhat. I thought that was great. That was easy to remember. Yeah, it was
kind of funny.
You know, changing your brand is just crazy idea most times.
JR Jimity says, I like everyone. At least we're trying to think differently. We're trying. Get a lot of flack about the chemtrail thing with James Lee. I hope he comes on, man. Nothing.
You know, how can you take flack when you've at least, you know, it's like this. You've allowed this to come on. It's not like you're stomping out the topic, is it? Quite the reverse.
Yeah, I want to talk about it more, but it's amazing. People are so...
Well, it's not what I'm going to just tell you straight out. It's not the fact that you agree or disagree is not relevant. You are facilitating open discussion.
I want to hash it out. Thank you. I want to hash it out because I've never. It's one of the. It's almost more controversial than the Bible. People are so certain, and that they're right or that their mind has been made up. I don't see the practicality of being so beholden to one view.
Yeah,
getting so angry about other people and their views,
Keep praying, Tim.
because they could be wrong.
They could be wrong, 100%.
They
They're all
could
just
be wrong.
models. They're
Yeah.
all just models.
Yeah, they're models. Okay, Frank, thanks for joining in. And
Thank you, Tim. And look, I couldn't appreciate it more. Thank you.
No, I know you're very grateful. I really appreciate you. A flat mooner, someone who bears their backside from their apartment. Okay, that's kind of
Boom,
funny.
boom.
All right. See everybody. We'll see you
Bye.
tomorrow, maybe at 10 a.m. I'll broadcast it live tomorrow, so watch your
Okay.
notifications
All
if
right,
I
see
do
ya.
do it. I'll have to think about it. Thank you. Good night, everyone.